Ah, yes, bodywork. Easily my least favorite part about painting a car because it's so messy, labor intensive, and again, messy. But without a doubt, it is the most important step when painting your car because it's your foundation. It's the base layer for your paint. In this video, I'm gonna share with you the methods that have worked for me when it comes to prepping a car for paint. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode here at the hangar. We're not at the stable anymore because sitting behind us, we have a piece of aviation history. The car itself doesn't have much to do with aviation, but instead I'm talking about the history that came with this car, specifically the man who built it back in 1954. He was literally Johnny Badass, not just a pilot, but a test pilot for multiple aircraft, including a B-36 bomber. And with John being an aviation badass, you will see some of that trickle into this build. I mean, look at this. It's pages and pages of maintenance records, gas mileage, where he stopped for fuel, as well as some repairs. And up here we can see more of that aviation trickling into this build, and I'm not talking about the beer keg, instead I'm talking about this instrument panel. Besides the fact that this car had 14 total gauges, this one is the most interesting to me. I don't know many people that would purposely put a manifold pressure gauge in their build, let alone know how to read it. But that alone explains how interesting and unique this build is. All right, so now that we've had a short recap, what's the plan? The plan is to get an initial status report on the body itself. Is the surface flat? Is the surface wavy? Using a combination of different sanding blocks as well as other tools. Before even picking up the sandpaper, I'm gonna give this car a visual inspection, note down all the noticeable low spots, cracks, or dings, as well as give it a good wash. This is a step that is commonly skipped. If you start sanding on the dirty surface, you're just gonna waste your sandpaper as well as add additional uncontrolled grit. Before we even hit it with sandpaper, the car itself is going to give us some visual cues that we can pick up with our own eyes. If we take a look under the paint, and not like in the sense of an x-ray, but rather the underlying surface, as you can see, the reflections of the lights are bouncing around, kind of looks like a piece of bacon on the fryer. That's showing us that the panel's a little bit wavy there. If we take a look at this blue light reflected on the side of the car, same thing on the driver's side, you can see that light bouncing around a bit. And that doesn't mean that the bodywork on this was bad. It's pretty common to have that kind of warpage on fiberglass. So again, we can confirm our suspicions with the long block. This is pretty straightforward, cross-hatching with the light pressure on the block across the surface. Alrighty, even with a couple minutes of sanding in this area, we have already found all of our lows and our highs. It's a little bit difficult to see because it's all white here, but let's take a look at this close-up of what's going on. As you can see in black, we have the wavy fiberglass, and this is exaggerated for demonstration purposes. Then on top of that, in red, we have the paint, which isn't doing much for those waves. Let's pretend this shadow is our long block with our sanding paper. As you can see, it's only going to start to hit the peaks and the dips will be left untouched. On all of the darker spots is where that sandpaper wasn't hitting. And again, the key to this is having a good acrylic block that is perfectly flat, because the block is only going to hit those high spots, dulling them out and therefore revealing the low spots. So at what point do we stop sanding? In this case, since it's fiberglass, I would stop once we reveal the gel coat. We definitely don't want to get to the fiberglass strands. Being that this car is from 1954, there is some chips, some pretty good chips that have revealed the gel coat and a little bit of that fiberglass strand. So we're going to stop once we reveal this color right here. If you're working on a regular car with metal panels, then you would stop once you see the metal because that's at the highest point. Again, this step is strictly to just give us a status report on the body, on the flatness of the surface. That way the car itself will let us know what we should do next. Should we fill it? Should we just glaze it? What kind of primer do we use? High build, or the next step from there, polyester? Those are questions that our dear sanding block here will answer for us. And this is one of those occasions where size does matter if you're using a little block. And what I mean by that is, say if you use a small block like this for this process. Instead of gliding over all of the peaks and the highs, it's going to follow the contours of the car. It's going to dip into the lows and rise up into the highs. So if we continue with this little block for the entire car, the whole car is gonna be flat because we just dug out all of the low spots. Rather, if we use this one, those low spots are not going to be touched until everything else is flat. And by that point, we've probably already reached the gel coat or the metal. I usually do this step in 150 to 180 grit sandpaper, but in this case, I used 120 because I knew this had multiple layers of thick paint. So we've got some pretty cool info going on here. We just hit it with the long block, and we're at the point where we're starting to see different colors starting to blush through. And this is the point where I will usually stop hitting it with the long block because we can't go any further without burning through all the way into what is the gel coat in this case. And with that long block, we already removed a lot of the low spots that were in here, but once again, we can no longer go any further with the long block because we're already blushing through into the gel coat. So what about the areas that we can't use the long block? I mean, as you guys can see, this car is really curvy, so using a long block everywhere is just not realistic. For example, in this headlight and grille area, you can't really get in here with a long block without causing more damage than good. What about a short acrylic block? Well, in this case, I wouldn't like to use it either because the contact patch is probably about a ½ an inch. That's where the slightly flexible blocks will come in handy because you'll be able to bend them just a bit enough to get that contour going, or something like this small flexible rectangle one that can contour pretty easy. I don't like picking these up too much because again, you can easily get into the habit of starting to dig out all the low spots with the smaller blocks. And now I want to talk about this magical thing called guide coat. You may be asking, why does this car now have a mustache? Well, I asked the same thing this morning about Ozzy, but I think it has to do with all the caffeine you guys have been feeding him. This mustache is literally going to display where all of our highs and lows are. Guide coat itself has a ton of uses, not just for bodywork. It goes from bodywork all the way up to even polishing, because as you can see, it sinks all the way into the sand scratches and reveals where things are, where your 80 grit was, where your 150 grit was, and in our case right now, where our low spots are. We can see on this nose cone we have a very large low spot right here, as well as some on the top in this area right here, as well as some closer to the grill. On this nose cone area, we already started seeing some blushing, so we're gonna go ahead and stop with the long block process. Well, what about this sleek curve sweeping across the entire front? For this, we obviously can't use a rectangular long block, so I like using these cylinder type foam blocks. So with just the eyeball, it might look like there's not a lot going on. And our hands here are another great tool, because if you run your hand across the surface of these dark and light spots, the picture that was painted with your eye becomes greatly enhanced when you feel the highs and the lows. So we've made quite a bit of progress here. We've identified a lot of the lows and a lot of the highs. As you can see right here, we have a pretty big low here that's a streak across there. And again, I'm stopping right at the point where that gel coat or undercoat starts blushing through. But I wanted to show you guys once again how cool using guide coat is, because it's very foolproof. It's pretty hard to mess up when using guide coat because it just gives you additional information. We've just sanded this area with a long block, one of the acrylic ones. And look, even with just the guide coat, it's going to show us all of these highs and the lows. It's pretty much just printing itself on the highs, because the highs have sand scratches, so the guide coat will fall into them. Whereas the low spots will be shiny because they don't have any sand scratches. Therefore, the guide coat will not stick to them. With the guide coat, you can see the extent of how wavy this panel is. Look at these giant low spots. So whether you use the guide coat before or after sanding, it will still relay some information to you regarding the smoothness, the flatness of the panel. This is sanding dust, not Colombian dust, I promise. All right, so now that we've sanded all of the primary surfaces, what's the status report? Well, it's honestly not any worse than I was expecting. You can see a lot of the low spots are kind of scattered everywhere, and it's kind of typical with fiberglass. On the driver's side, we have kind of the same theme going on with a couple low spots here, a couple low spots there, again, scattered everywhere. You guys already saw along the nose cone, we have a couple low spots. By far, the worst spot has to be up here. Not only for the amount of low spots, but the size of them. You can see they're really shiny, so that means the sandpaper did not touch them at all. Whereas some of these low spots on the fender apron, you can see the sandpaper was kind of grazing them, so that means that those low spots are pretty shallow, while these low spots are pretty deep. To my surprise, the rear was the best area. There's not a whole lot of low spots going on here. Everything was pretty flush and smooth. There is some low spots scattered around here and there. Again, I only stopped sanding once I started seeing some of that gel coat blushing through. So the car's status report indicates waviness here and there, highs and lows scattered across the body. But again, it's pretty typical with fiberglass. Even some newer cars come wavy from the factory by the way that the metal is stamped. But now what shall we do with this information? Well, I'm gonna cover 3 different methods, 3 different routes that we can take from here. Just make it look good. If we were to just make it look good, from here, I would grab my DA sander and hit up every single piece of this car, including the low spots with something like a 180 or 220 grit sandpaper. Then I would lay a coat of epoxy primer. In green here, you will see the epoxy coat that goes right on top of the fiberglass. It's a very thin coat, usually only 1 to 2 layers. Epoxy primers are great sealers for your underlying materials. In our case, this is fiberglass, but it's also good for metal because it acts as a great moisture barrier. That way we completely seal off and contain any of the gel coat or fiberglass that was previously exposed. Then I would top coat it with something like a high build primer. I personally like U-Pol products. The high build primer is going to do a great job at hiding sand scratches, not so much filling in dents because that's not what it's made for. I know when I first started doing body work, I would get overwhelmed and confused on what sandpaper to use. Is this too aggressive? Is this too fine? The cool thing about these products is they literally tell you what to sand it to. For example, this high build primer is 180 to 220. After adding that high build primer, we would then sand it up to 400 to 600 depending on what paint we use. If we were to top coat it with a solid color, say something like this red, then 400 to 600 would be perfect. If instead we were to top coat it with something like this, which is a silver metallic, those flakes could possibly fall into the scratches of a 400 grit scratch or a 600 grit scratch and cause it to look a little funny. So this one, I would likely take it up to something like 800. For those of you who noticed, for the just make it look good option, we didn't mention any correction of the highs or the lows. Well, no, again, this is the budget option. This is for the people that don't have $1 million to get their car painted, nor do they have the time to spend a month on the bodywork. Let's jump straight into the most expensive option, the show car quality. If we were to make this thing stand out with no budget nor a time constraint, after an epoxy coat, I would sand the entire car and start filling in all of these low spots and skim the entire panel so we could long block it flat. The body filler, as you can see, is going to fill in all of those dips that we were talking about earlier. From there, I would use something called polyester primer, which is pretty much just a very thick primer, even thicker than high build primer, and that's to fill in all of the inconsistencies you might have missed during the filler stage. After that, once again, I would hit it with a high build primer to top it off, to finish everything out, to take away all of the sanding scratches, and then we can paint. And as far as the layers go, some people might think this is way too much material on the surface of the paint, but as long as you stay within the TDS, the technical data sheet, or the instructions of each product, you should be more than fine. Now, a good example of this exact method is Sarah Entoon's Celica build. That one took 6 weeks of very long days, but it has every single one of these steps, as well as it was sanded with the same blocks you saw today. Now, this might seem excessive, and that's because it is. Unless you have the time or money to do this, I would probably recommend going with a middle of the road solution. The middle of the road option would basically likely be the show car quality with one of the steps removed, that being either the polyester primer or the body filler stage, which both of them kind of do the same thing, but both of them together give a pretty good result. Regardless of which option this car gets, it will be getting an epoxy primer, again to seal off that fiberglass and gel coat from whatever we top coat it with. This video is pretty ironic because bodywork is one of the things I hate the most in this life, but yet it is the only thing I've received an award for. So I'm gonna have a discussion with the owner of this car to see what route we should take. And of course, you guys will see that in the next video. With that being said, thank you guys for hanging out. We'll see you on the next one. ¿Qué ole, compas? Si quisiera mirar más de lo que hacemos yo y el patronazo de día a día, síguenos aquí, lo agradeceríamos un chingo. Y bueno, pues ahí nos miramos a la otra. Chao.